Hello again, everybody. First off, I wanted to thank everyone that's subscribed. I have hit over 500 subscribers, so I am so excited about that. I thank you guys. I'm so glad that you have liked my content, and hopefully, my content has given you a lot of ideas and helped you with your creative processes. Um, and as I promised that, once I hit 500 subscribers, that I would make available this document that I had created to make this stencil for this butterfly. So um, it makes this the dark parts of the butterfly, and you can upload this into your Cricut design space if you have a Cricut, or if you have a Silhouette, or whatever. I don't know if there's any other cutting machines out there, but it will be a JPEG format. And if you don't have a cutting machine, you can just download it and print it out on a piece of cardstock and just color it in, paint it, color it in, do whatever. I will say that the antennae are very thin so you do get some tearing when you get this cut out and you take it off of your mat. It may tear the antenna, which it did on mine. I just drew it in, just went ahead and drew the antenna in with a colored pencil. So it's not an issue, at least not for me, if you're going to use it as a template for the stencil. Also, so the link to this the download will be in the description in this video. So, I want to continue with part 2 of this, and I've spent a lot of hours preparing and trying to figure out what I'm going to do. So I have a bunch of postcards, vintage postcards, and I have used this as some inspiration, and I'm going to create a very large postcard that is similar to this. This one is from 1909, and this one is Glenwood Mission Inn. So there's a picture of Glenwood Mission Inn in California. So really neat. And the cool thing is, the colors kind of match. I mean, it looks a lot lighter on the screen, but this postcard is actually more yellow than what is showing here. So it's very similar in like age as far as the paper, my eco-dyed paper. Alright, so let's just go on here. So what I've done is scanned in this postcard and made some more cutouts and stencils with the word postcard, and then this stamp. If you can see, there's a cancellation stamp here, the circle that's got the date, and then there's, if you could see that, there is a flag here with the 13 stars in stripes. Is there 13? No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know. Anyway, so I've made a stencil out of this and cut it out with my Cricut. So I'll show you that real quick. And I also made cutouts of the letters. Cut that out with my Cricut, and I actually cut those letters out with some Gelli printed on this Gelli printed paper, because I like the look of this. It's distressed, it's aged, and I thought that would go well with the look of the aged paper here. So I'm going to darken the letters a little bit because I don't think that it's dark enough or stands out enough, so I will be darkening these. Here's my first attempt at creating the cancellation stamp stencil, which I'm still learning. It's very difficult. I think that it's going to cut out and look exactly, the way that I think it's, it should. And then I find out that it cut out way more than what I wanted. So I figured out that I have to leave some gaps and to keep, everything from cutting out and, not having all the detail in. So what I had to do is create some space and some gaps to where it doesn't cut out the circle. If you can see, I've left some, let's see if I can show you. So instead of it being a perfect circle, I've had to, make these little tabs here, I don't know what you would call those, so that it just cuts out certain sections of the circle and doesn't like cut out the entire circle to where all you have left when it's done is this, which I know better, but I'm learning, like I said. And the letters as well, you have to leave some little tabs where there's, the letters that have, the like the R and the D and like the O's that have, the cutouts in the middle. It'll just cut the entire letter out. So you have to put little tabs or connectors in there so that it doesn't cut out everything and not leave like a hole for your stamp. So these are, I would say, more than double the size. I don't know. I just kind of guessed at the size because I'm trying to get it to, match the size of this paper, because this is a little larger than an 8.5 by 11, and of course this is probably a 3 by 5 or 3.5 by 5, and it's a lot bigger. So I tried to just get it proportioned to the page, to this page. So I've made the stencils bigger, the letters bigger, and then this as well. And I've also created a fern. Where is it? I've made some fern leaves. So here was a set of like 3 fern leaves, and I cut the tops off of them. Cut these out with my Cricut, with the cardstock, the black cardstock, and just cut the tips out, because what I want to do, and I guess I could have cut it out with white cardstock, but I painted it white, so I've got, a base to, color these like a greenish, some sort of a green. So I will do that, because they're going to go, these are going to go right here at the bottom. And then I've also, with this image, created the stamp. So I printed the stamp on this old newsprint, which is yellowish, so it would match. And I don't have a color printer, so I just, printed this off in grayscale. Now, when you scan something in and you want to make it bigger, so if you're scanning an image in with the intention of blowing it up or enlarging it, you want to scan it at the highest resolution as possible so that you don't lose any of the quality of the image when you make it bigger, when you enlarge it. So I scanned it, the highest I could scan this in was 600 dots per inch. So the more dots per inch, so the more DPI, the higher the quality and the bigger you can enlarge your image. And I think this was originally maybe an inch square, approximately square, and I've made it like 2 inches in width. And since I don't have a color printer, I just have a black and white laser printer, I've just taken a colored pencil, and this one is olive green, and I have just colored in, carefully just kind of colored in a little bit of the green color on some of the dark sections of this because this is, I don't know if you can tell, but it is like a greenish, looks like an olive green color. So I have just colored that. And you can't really tell that too well, but trust me, I can see the olive green here. So what I'm going to do, let's see where to begin. I have my black stamp pad, and I've already begun, but I don't think it's dark enough. I stamped, or not stamped, well, I guess it is kind of stamping, but I'm just taking this black ink and I'm going to go over the letters again a little bit more with the black to darken these letters so that they show up better. And, you know, on the postcard, they are black. And I just cut this out, like I said, on this brownish distressed jelly printed paper to give it that old look. And it's still, when I stamp the color over this, it still has that aged look. So it's not like a solid black, but you can kind of see that there's still that aging there, this distressed look on the letter. So let's see if that is enough. So as you can see, that one's a lot darker, and I like that. So I'm going to go through all of these letters and do the same process with all of these, and then I'm going to center these on the page and then glue them with the ultra matte gel. And I'm going to take this as a guide, so I'm going to place it over and center this, and then I'm going to take the cutout letters and glue them in place over top, so that kind of will get my spacing correct. If that makes any sense to you guys here, I'm going to just, you know, take it. I need some tweezers. So I'll just use this and then center it as much as possible where I want the letters to go, and I'll just leave that down as a guide, and then take my letters and, you know, brush on some matte gel and then just place them right over the top there so that they line up right. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to fussy cut my stamp out and place it over here. And then when I'm done with that, I will come back. Okay, so I've got the stamp and the letters glued on here, adhered on here with the ultra matte gel. And I've also put a light coat over top of the letters. It did smear some of the black ink from the stamp pad, so you would think I would have learned from one of my last videos where I had used this with my oh, I'd made a cover. It wasn't a journal cover. It's I don't know, when it was completely dry, it didn't smear, but it must not have been completely dry. This may not be waterproof. I don't know. So anyhow, it did smear a little bit around here, but it is what it is, and it still looks good. No, it just looks dirty, but that's fine because it's old, so it's supposed to look dirty, so we'll leave it at that. So while the top coat of the matte gel is drying, I'll go ahead and paint my ferns, my fern leaves. And let's see, they were going to go right here. And how I'm going to do that, let's do some jelly printing. So I've got my jelly plate here, and I had a piece of plexiglass, but I don't know where it is, so I'll just set it on. I'll just go ahead and just place it on this here, my vinyl mat, which will be fine. So I've got 3 colors here. So the ferns are green, but I don't want it solid green. So I've got this Blick Matte acrylic in teal green. And you may not see that very well because the lighting is really strong right in the center there. And then I have some folk art acrylic paint in Sawgrass. So this is a lighter green. And then I have some Blick Matte acrylic in yellow oxide. So I'm going to take these colors and mix them together, shake them up. And I'm just going to put a little bit, because we don't need a lot, and just very little of the darker green, very little of the yellow here, the yellow oxide, more of this sawgrass. And I just put it on my finger first just to keep it from me putting too much on there, because I don't need to do this whole plate. And we'll see what we get. So we'll just mix these together, see if that is going to work out. And we may do a few layers. So it's got mostly the sawgrass here. And let me get a sheet of paper. Let's see, maybe I didn't fill up enough, so we'll put those right there. And I'm just going to take a sheet of paper, press those down, see what they look like. So there you can see just a little variation of color here. Uh-oh, what'd I do? Be careful with this. And so it's mostly, we mostly have the sawgrass color. Let's see, let's take a look at this and see. I like that, but I still think we need a little more of this. So let me just add a little more, maybe, if it'll come out. I like this Blick paint, but the bottles are just, they're hard. They don't squeeze as well as these, as the folk art. These have more give to them, and these are awful hard. So I'm just going to add the darker green over top of this, what's already there. And isn't that cool? That little section right there with all those colors. Let's see. Let's just put those there. And then I'm just going to lightly press, because I don't, just very lightly. And we'll see how that looks. Because I want it to look distressed still. And you're not really seeing that very well, but seeing that variation of color there. And I can't really, there, maybe you can see it a little better up close. Uh-oh, come on, don't get stuck. Come up, come up, come up. Being careful not to tear these. Uh-oh. Come on. Okay. Oh yeah. I'm sure you guys cannot see that very well, but there's a lot of distressing on there, and there's some dark green and some of that sawgrass, and still I don't think you guys are seeing that too well. I'm not sure. Let's see. Am I done with this? and goes like that. I think that's a nice color. I still think it needs some more dark, but I think only on the edges. So I'm going to put this up, and I do not clean this because I like the dried paint on here, because it picks up, you know, when I do another one later in the future, some more jelly printing, it will pick up that old dried paint, which gives it even more distressed look, and I really like that. So let me put this up. Put it back in its shell. And I'm going to, all right, I just lost my other, where'd they go? Just dropped them somewhere. There they are. Okay. So I've got these guys. I'm just going to take this little makeup sponge, and I'm going to just put a little bit of this teal green on here, on the sponge. Yes, it is mowing day, if you guys can't hear that. Sorry if you hear the lawnmower. And I'm just going to take some of this and darken the edges with it. It's right on the edge, so it's kind of pretty dry sponge here. And now we could see that better. Ferns aren't really this dark, actually. Well, it depends on the lighting, I guess. If this is closer to evening time and there's not, much sun, yes, it would look darker than this. So, and actually, my butterfly, I don't know, everything's all distressed and old looking and fairly dark all over, so this should work out really well. And I'll put some more of this dark towards the bottom. So we've got a really dry sponge, so that we don't have too much paint here, because we want to still see through what I've jelly printed here. All right. And I'll probably add more detail to that with some colored pencils. So I'm going to, sorry, you can't see that very well. It looks really nice. It's a lot more contrast on the screen between the greens than what I see in person. So I think I'm going to go ahead and glue those down with some matte gel, and then I will be back. Okay, so I have my ferns attached. I'm going to have to set these under some heavy books, because it's very wonky, but that's just because of the nature of the paper, as far as, it's watercolor paper, and this was soaked, boiled. So I might be able to straighten this out. I'm not sure. We'll see. If not, I'm not worried about it. I don't know what I'm going to do with this, if I'm going to frame it or what I'll end up doing. But So this is mostly dry. I mean, to the touch it feels dry, it's not sticky. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp the cancellation on here with the template that I made, and I'm going to line it up. And yes, I'm going to use this. I'm going to read the back of this. It says archival ink, which would make me think that it wouldn't smear. I just don't think I waited long enough for it to dry, because I would like to give this another coat, like all over, once I'm done with the gel medium, just to preserve the paper. Maybe I'll just do it on the back, because I mean, this, I want to make this as archival as possible. Anyway, I'm gonna just line this up to, it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, when they stamp it, they just go through and just stamp wherever, as long as they cover the stamp so that it shows it's canceled. So I'm going to probably need to get rid of this green that's on here. I think I need another makeup sponge, or I know, I'll just cut it. There. Okay. So I don't want too much, because that's a very light stamp on the the postcard. It's very lightly stamped on there, so I don't want it too dark. I just want it to show not really sharp, but you know, I still want it to look aged, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, we just want to show the indication that it's been canceled. I think what I'm going to do is make my own cancellation stamp out of some of the different postcards that I have. And I have some big erasers, that pink erasers, that maybe I can carve out the images and create my own stamps. Obviously they won't be this big. This size is just for this size of paper. If I do make my own stamp with eraser, I'll video that, of course. I don't know how well this is going to show up, and whatever. Not whatever, but you know, we're not trying to be perfect. We're trying to get this, we're just trying to get this look of a very old postcard, I tell you. We'll just see how this turns out. Alright, so I'm going to just continue on with this, and I will be back again. Okay guys, that turned out awesome. So I really, really like that. So is that not cool? I just love that. This looks so good. I'm so excited about this. So the last things that I'm going to do is add some detail to the butterfly, and I've already started. I'm going to use some colored pencils just to put in a little more detail, because the body has some yellow stripes on him on both sides of him, and then he's black down the center of his body. So I've taken a Prismacolor yellow ochre, I believe, yeah, so this is yellow ochre, and I'm just going to add some detail around the sides and some more, maybe add some more yellow ochre around these little areas here. And I've also got some of this cerulean blue, which I'm going to add some more to the blue sections of the butterfly here, and add a little more detail to these ferns. And I'm also going to, I have a black colored pencil here. This one's a different brand because I don't know what happened to my black Prismacolor, but this is this premium colored pencils that I had gotten from Ollie's a while back that they had on sale for $2.99 by Leisure Arts, and I think these are really nice. They're nice and soft and a lot cheaper. Even regular price, they're about $10, and there's 30 pencils in here, and these are supposed to be artist quality, so a lot cheaper than a set of Prismacolors for sure. All of these Prismacolors I have had for years, so these are like the old style Prismacolors from, like, I don't know, early 2000 or late 1990s. So I'm going to very lightly connect the gaps where I had gaps in the stencils that I had to create in order to, as I explained in the beginning, to keep from the entire circle from being cut out. And if you very, 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 very lightly touch on this piece of paper, then it blends. It looks like it's blending in very well with the ink. So there's that, and you may not see that well. There's also a line here separating this part of the flag that I had left out, because just to keep the flag in place when it got cut out. So I'm just going to add that line back in very, 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 very lightly. Excuse me. And I apologize if you guys can hear the lawnmower out there. It seems like many of my videos, it seems like my husband is mowing. When wintertime comes, we won't have to worry about that, so it won't be much longer when mowing season will be over. And then I can connect this because I left a little gap here. And then these gaps in between the stripes and this pole or base, I guess you would call it, I'm going to go ahead and connect that because those are actually connected. So just super, super, super light touch to that. And then I can go in and fill the line of the A in here very lightly. And fill in parts of the 8. Go ahead and round that out. And the O. And the P for the PM. Let's go ahead and connect that A for March. And it was March 20th, which was my dad's birthday, which I thought was cool. And then the 9's got some gaps in them. So I'll go ahead and connect those lines. Super, super, super light touch. I can't stress enough like how light that you need to do this so that it blends well. And then there was a dash here that didn't show up because it cut out, but it was very, very tiny. So I'm just going to super lightly add that dash in. And go ahead and continue adding some detail to the butterfly using this as a reference. So this yellow ochre shows up really well. I will say that the Prismacolors do cover better than this. So if I want to color over top of like a dark paint or something, I do find that the Prismacolors show up much better than these here. So I mean, if you can afford to get some Prismacolors, I would definitely invest in that. So I'm just carefully and lightly just going in and adding some detail. And then I'll add some little white areas because his eyes are right here. I'll to color his eyes in with some black and add some highlights there. So I may add some more dark. I don't want to get too detailed with this, but that's kind of me though. I try to get things like very realistic, and obviously this isn't going to be, I mean, this isn't supposed to be realistic, but it's still, you know, very nice, and you know what it is. And I can do realism, but it takes so long. It just takes such a long time because you have to take your time and get every little detail in there. And you know, working full time, you don't have time for that. Most of us don't have time for that. It's hard enough for me to find time to do this. And I mean, that is why I created this channel, so that it would motivate me to do this, because I know that, you know, people subscribe and they're wanting to see more content, and with that, then that motivates me to say, hey, I need to sit down and do this and finish this, and so that these people can, so you guys, these people, I'm talking to myself, that you guys can you know, see the rest of this and get some ideas, because a lot of you like to craft, like to journal, and this would really work well on a 2-page spread if you wanted to take this and glue this inside of a journal. I don't want to cut this, but I mean, or not cut it, but fold it. Or it'd make a very pretty journal cover, like in a landscape format. But there he is so far. And I'm just going to continue with this. I don't want you guys to get too bored watching this step every single detail. So, and I'm not like big on editing, because if I have to like really go through and edit and do, you know, sped up videos, then I probably won't ever get it. Probably won't ever get them done, because I just don't have a lot of time to sit down and do that, plus create these stencils, which took a very long time. So, you know, just getting the stencils down to where they cut out correctly, and even this, the butterfly, the postcard, you know, all of this, even printing this out to the right size, scaling it so it's not too, you know, looking too distorted. It takes a lot of thought and time, so I apologize if my videos aren't, you know, not the greatest quality. I do what I can though. So I'll go ahead and you get the idea. And I'll pick some colors that will work, because obviously ferns have stems, veins in the middle. So I'll go ahead and add like a lighter green and add a vein here. I will probably darken the edges again, maybe with some black or something, and maybe especially around here to where it will stand out, because it's kind of hard to see between, you know, where that fern is and this. So I need to get this more separation between this fern and this butterfly. So once I get that done, I will show you the final product and I will be back. So thank you for holding on and I will return. Okay, so I have very lightly added a little bit of the lines, a little bit of the veining, connected some of that vein and added in very, very lightly with this light umber in Prismacolor. So you can kind of see it there on the screen. The highlights of the eyes here, let's see. You could kind of see that where his little eyes are. The highlight of the eyes, I used this Gelli Roll pen in white. And while it was still wet, I just kind of blotted it a little bit so that it wouldn't be too white. I don't want to add too much detail because I want all of the different textures and stuff and colors that are showing through in the Gelli printed paper that's underneath this stencil to show through. So I've also added some veining in here. I find that the yellow ochre, so I continue to use the yellow ochre on the fern, and it seems to cover that quite well. So I just went in with this yellow ochre and just went through and added the center just like this. And let me see if I can zoom you guys in a little bit. Let's see, where are you at? There you go. So you can see a little bit better there. And I'm using this olive green that I had used up here on the stamp to add some more contrast and go up against the left side of that vein there, just to add more definition. And then just lightly in circular motions, just coloring and very lightly coloring in with the olive green some of the lighter portions of the fern. So I've already did that here on this side. I haven't done it like too much of it. So just lightly circular, going around and filling that in a little bit. I like coloring over the Gelli printed papers. It does wear your pencils down quickly though, because there's a lot of texture on here. And then if you want it darker, you can press a little bit harder or just go over it more. Like I could just kind of define that separation between these two leaves here. And then go around the edges of this cut paper, cut cardstock to add some more definition. So I have like went around the edges a little bit with this, darken that some more. And I can also kind of try to darken that, kind of separate those two leaves, because this one would be in front of this one. So you want to kind of make that stick out a little farther. So then we have a more realistic look here. And then I did take some of this black, and I'm not finished with this yet. Just added some of this black around the edges of this fern to make it stand out a little better from this butterfly. So just doing this, and then I can separate those two little leaves there with that. Go in with my olive green and also do it here. Go on the other side of the stem and just add some more of that green to make that yellow ochre in the center stand out. So you can alternate between different colors here that'll help with the realism. And I can go through and define these leaves a little better. So I'll continue with this, but I won't come back because I know this is getting long, so you get the idea. I'll just go a little, I'll add a little more detail to these leaves, just continuing in this manner, so that it stands out and forward, because this is like the first layer of the postcard. And I'm going to leave this blank. I thought about adding the lines here for the address over here and then the center line here. I did not get the postcard centered exactly, so you might notice that a little more if I add that center line in between here and here. It's not off by a whole lot, but I actually like this part here, though. There's all of this going on from, you know, the dyeing the pages, and you can actually see a little bit of, it kind of looks like a fern here, but I like that. So I'm just going to leave it as is. Maybe. I'll think about it, but like I said, I'm not going to come back. You get the gist of this, and like I said, I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you guys subscribing. Oh, I also may go ahead and define the letters a little bit more with the black, kind of go around the edges with the black like I did right here. But I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you really like this tutorial, and it gives you an idea of what you can do with the eco-dyed paper and the gelli printing, because I love the randomness of the gelli printing, and it's so fast. As far as just wanting to get a variation of color in here, you can't beat that. So, and you can still add realistic look to your crafting, to your pages, just by kind of doing what I showed you with how I colored these leaves. It was so much easier to do it this way than to take a brush and just paint over. I would not have gotten all of this variation, this gradation of color without the gelli print. At least not so easily. So I appreciate you guys again watching, and if you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and do so if you like my videos and you want to see more from me. And also, don't forget that there is a download in the description, or a link to this file that you can download on Flickr. The file that creates this butterfly, just the dark sections, it cuts out this whole dark section. If you want to see what that looked like cut out by itself, there is a part 1 to this video, so please go and take a look at that. So again, thank you all for watching, and I will be back again. Bye bye, guys.